Hey everybody. I've been working on something that's just sort of a um, personal, educational project, I guess we can say, um, which is trying to start sort of custom building a web browser, which I know is a lot of work. So probably won't get that far, but wanted to sort of learn how A, web browsers work, and then B, how does one use, like, most of my background is in Python. So things like, um, you know, using C with Python is really, really not my strong suit. So thought this might be the crazy way to go about doing this. So anyway, basically what I've really only got built out so far is the thing that makes a socket, makes a connection to a server, gets the response from the server, and then basically just prints it out on the screen. Um, Most of that I tried to get from tutorials, but then I had a huge kerfuffle. A, trying to make it compatible with Windows. This is my Windows computer. And then B, um, just with dealing with VS Code cooperating and using all my right setups and everything. Took a lot of work. Had to have some help from um, ChatGPT to rewrite most, if not all of this. And I sort of wanted to go through it so that I had an idea of what it did. Now, granted, most of my prompting on ChatGPT was I want to do this project where I'm building a web browser, blah, 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 blah. Give me the steps to do it. And it did do that and did a great job doing that. I think where I got stuck was really in the troubleshooting because I'm going to be honest, I haven't done any sort of C or C++ code since probably undergrad. So it's at least 5 to 8 years ago. So it's been a really long time. And like I said, I've never sort of done that Python C integration. So yeah. Anyway, so I wanted to walk through the C code first. Literally, the Python code is just this, you know, import the C, request this, and then it's going to print it out. So, yeah. So first thing I learned is if you're using Windows, you have to use this if def underscore 132. That tells CMake. I guess that's a good point. Is it coming through CMake or is it coming through on the final compiled thing? I'll have to look that up. But basically, which of these do you import, right? I think it's probably in the final compiled code of if you're on Windows, do this. No, because it needs to know that when it's compiled. Yeah, so this happens at the CMake and make level. So this is what you need to import for Windows. This is what you need to import for Linux. It's python.h. Let me see. I wanted to see something. If I comment that out, save that. I tried to make my screen so clean, and now I'm corrupting it. Let's see. New terminal. Let's just take a look. So we do that. Maybe. actually down here. And then do this. This was also an exercise in me learning how CMake works. This is a lot of what I do is in like Jupyter notebooks and things, and not really any full built out building of anything. So we can go here. This should work. Okay. Right. So we can take this out. This got in at some point because I was literally troubleshooting a billion different things. I'm also not sure whether this still needs. I guess this still needs to be here. Because basically, as far as I understand it, again, you're saying if on Windows, export this, right? So it's something that then Python can import. If you're on Linux, right, you're making up Python object. I'm calling this net request, and you give it self and you give it the arguments. Again, as part of my troubleshooting, pretty sure I need to keep this, but basically, when I actually, we'll just make this into an exercise of figuring out what I can get rid of. So let's try this. Where else is it broken? Down here. Okay. So then theoretically, rebuild, and then run. Runs just fine. So that's telling me get rid of this. So part of what I was troubleshooting was one of the error messages I was getting was about the GIL. And evidently I don't need let's just make sure this builds. Let me just see if there's anywhere else. Ah, up here. Yeah, okay. So, got that. No need to care about the GIL anymore. But basically one of the error messages I was getting was about it didn't know what state the GIL was in. So that's that. Get your host, your port, whatever thing you're sending to it. Add a status flag. If an error flag, an error message. Let's see here. And then this is where you start on the Windows stuff. So setting this up, I made a go-to. I was never taught this, which also probably shows you how much actual C and C++ I've done. I was a computer science minor, not a major. So learned go-to today. Very useful. But basically set this up for networking. You know, whether it's going to be IPv4, IPv6 happens here. This is TCP. I think this is, if I remember correctly, this is resolving, things like getting the actual IP address and stuff. Anyway, this is setting up the socket. If you end up with an error, you have to do this cleanup. It sets the flag, sets the message, sets the status, goes to cleanup. Otherwise, keeps moving. Things like socket error, invalid socket are also handled. Sets up the buffer to send as well as the buffer to receive. If it fails, do that. This is all kind of the same thing over and over again, but just through different stages of setting up the socket, setting up the connection, sending the information, getting the information back, shutting down the connection, what did I receive, right, and then it can keep going, and then this is that cleanup, right, of just set the error string. This was another thing that ChatGPT sort of flagged for me. Although it flagged the other stuff too. But again, I think I literally spent like 4 or 5 hours Googling and chatting and all that stuff. And while ChatGPT is very smart, sometimes if you're like 5 or 6 troubleshooting things deep, it'll forget that you did thing number 1 and then tell you to do that again. And, you just sort of bang your head against the wall. And basically I ended up just sort of trying 20 different things till it worked. And I'm going to be honest, probably most of it was on VS Code's end, not actually with the code I'd written myself. But I think ChatGPT just tried to take it from a C programming end versus a the end of like something screwed up with your dev environment. Which would be interesting to see if you could figure out a way to prompt it properly to recognize the difference. So then this is some other stuff that I've been learning about of how to make all of this stuff. So you say, okay, this is probably where it starts, right? You're gonna create a module called a networking module. Networking module has a thing called networking methods. Networking methods has a method called net request, right? And then we just looked at net request. And so from there, it gets imported. It's literally just networking net request URL, which port, and what you're gonna send it. I think next is drawing it on a viewport, which is also challenging because a lot of what I do on Python is backend stuff. Again, this is sort of a project for me to learn things. So I think what I'll probably end up doing, like I'll show you. So here in Docs Learning, which I'll attach the GitHub to this video, but basically I took the Python documentation example and just sort of wrote out a very simple thing of it, just to learn how to do that, and then also learn how to use CMake to get it to make it. I think there's also just a lot of mess in my CMake that I need to clean up because, like I said, I was literally spending hours and hours troubleshooting probably. I mean, the fun part is right, you don't know which combination of changes ended up making it work, especially when you barely know the language to begin with. But I think it was a good afternoon of troubleshooting. It wasn't like a huge amount of to be fair, it was a huge amount of frustration. But it was, I don't know, rewarding when it worked. I think that's sort of why I'm making this video, is to like just sort of walk myself through all the different stuff I did. We made sure we had the libraries, we made sure we were using the right standards, made sure we imported everything that needed to be imported, printed out where everything was getting imported from, all those different things, just to make sure that I'd done everything right. And one thing I do want to clean up is this folder structure anyway. So docs learning, I think I'm going to leave because this is just practice stuff. Docs, I'm going to probably put a link to this video in here. So anyway, then I have this Python folder, has the Python thing. I'll probably convert this into a proper like test suite soon. That might actually be the next step, is do it as a test suite, and do some form of test-driven development. But basically, so CMake pulls the Python into this Python modules and then compiles the C, plops that in this Python modules, and then you can run it from there. So I don't really use the build folder, which I probably should, but that's sort of the next step, right? Is to figure out how to get CMake to do all that moving, because this is just left as is. This Python is just put in there. This has to get actually compiled properly. But yeah, so I think in terms of to-dos, let's do this live. Let's make a new file. Call it todos.md. And just say to do, and then say, what all did I just say? So, gonna, rewrite CMake to use build folder instead of Python modules. Let's see, and then oh yeah, use testing framework, testing Python code. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna put this there, and do that. Yeah. So I think I'm gonna sort of try and turn this into a video series. I'm gonna be out starting in March, at least for a weekend or two, try and make a video series, and then do other stuff. There's other stuff I'm interested in learning about too. I can't really show a lot of my dissertation work, but another big sort of learning curve that I want to get through is learning about quantum computing, and doing that kind of stuff. Because I've seen several papers that use some of the techniques that I'm working on in my research, but on a quantum computer. So it's obviously a skill that I should probably learn sooner rather than later. And then, go from there. Who knows? But thanks for watching. If you got any comments, questions, feedback, I'm always happy to hear it. I'll put the GitHub in the description. And hope to see you all soon. Bye-bye.